What's going on, guys? Welcome back to DIY guitar making. I'm squinting into the sun right now. It's unusually bright in this spot. It just happens to be the exact time of day when the sun is right in my face. But I'm gonna struggle through this intro here regardless. So we are back to working on guitar number 106 for David in California. And where I last left off, we were just about to shape the headstock. So I'm gonna spend probably all of today just working on various aspects of shaping not only the headstock, but the heel and other things related to prepping the neck blank, ultimately for setting up the neck joint and carving it. Okay, God, that is bright. All right, so the first thing I gotta do is rough out the shape on the bandsaw, as you can see right here. Unfortunately, my bandsaw is out of commission at the moment, and I don't want to spend the first half of my day, or even the entire day, fixing this thing. So I've begun taking it apart, but hey, we're not going to get caught in the weeds with that. I can take this over to my big bandsaw back here, and yeah, I won't be able to make as nice and tight of a dainty little cut following this curved line here. I'm really just going to lop off some big angular chunks with my big saw, which I generally use for heavy work and resawing and things like that. It's got a beefy 3/4 of an inch Resaw King blade. So literally the blade is marketed for specifically for resawing. Anyway, I'm just going to lop some big angular chunks off of this, and then I'll just, you know, have to spend a little more time at the spindle sander to compensate for the fact that I couldn't use the smaller bandsaw on this. Alright, now that we've roughed ourselves in very close to our line, we are not going to use something like the spindle sander to get right down to our line, because doing that by hand like that, we would not have a perfectly symmetrical, smooth looking headstock. We're going to use a template to achieve that, and so we're going to stick this template down right on our center line here, and ultimately this is the Robosander. It's essentially like a flush trim router bit, the abrasive equivalent of a flush trim router bit. So it's got the bearing on top and an abrasive sleeve on the bottom. And the idea is it's going to shave away, abrade away all that wood until the bearing is just resting right on the template. So this will get us that perfect template shape every time. We're going to stick the template down with double stick tape. Before I stick down the template, it's always a good idea to just make sure that your two adjoining surfaces, this surface and this surface, are actually flat, because if you have sort of a little bit of a hill, you know, if the straight edge is teetering like this, then this is never going to actually stick down, and as soon as you start doing your work on the machine, on the drill press, this is just going to either shift slightly or just pop clean off. So let's make sure our surfaces are flat. And I do see a slight, looks pretty good up here, down near the bottom. I can rock that just a little bit and see daylight on the ends, which means we have a little hill here. So I'm going to go ahead and flatten this a little bit. Let me see if I can start this off with a plane. That's a little too coarse. Okay, that looks a lot better. I can still see just a tiny bit of daylight, probably not even enough to cause a problem at this point, but I'll just go a little bit further anyway, just to tighten that up. And then we're good to go. We can stick down our template with the double stick tape and take it to the drill press. Okay, and so the Robosander has duplicated my template shape onto there. It never gets it completely flush like a flush trim router bit would. It always leaves just a tiny little lip all the way around, but it's a consistent lip and it's tiny, so it's actually not a problem. But that's always something to keep in mind when you're using something like this abrasive sleeve equivalent of a flush trim router bit rather than an actual flush trim router bit. Doesn't get it truly flush, so in some cases, if you're using that for certain parts, you would have to account for the amount of trim that it leaves in however your designs are laid out. Something to consider. Now, before I remove this, we want to take one of these transfer punches. I believe it's this size right here. Yep, that fits perfectly in my template. And we're going to punch out our hole locations. I've already talked about my wacky headstock design and the different hole locations there in many other videos, so I'm not going to get into that here. But I'll just explain how I do this. So a set of transfer punches, which you can find just on Amazon. Just put in transfer punches. You'll find a very affordable set like this one right here. And what these do is they allow us to punch out our marks. They are designed to be 1/1000th of an inch smaller than their listed size so that they can actually fit and move freely in your templates. Just a great thing to have all around for guitar making. Simple as this. I'm going to go around and punch out every hole. Okay, let me remove that template. And here comes my trusty fish spatula. I just find fish spatula tends to be really the best type of spatula for removing templates and glue joints and things like that. I like the springiness of it most of all. Great for grilling fish too. Alright, get right in the seam there. Boom, there it is. Get that tape off right away, otherwise it leaves a kind of nasty residue if you just let it hang on there for a couple hours. And there we have our marks. So now I'm going to go ahead and drill these out with a 3/8 of an inch Forstner bit on the drill press. Back in a minute. So at this stage, we would go ahead and we would mark a few things out. We want to know where the beginning of our scale length is going to be. In other words, where the leading edge of the nut is going to be. So that's going to be our distance from the back edge of the nut to however wide we want that nut to be. Could be 4.5 millimeters, 5 millimeters, 6 millimeters, somewhere in that range. There's a lot of variability as far as how wide or how narrow you want that nut. And then from there, let's just say we put about 5 millimeters in there. From there, we would measure out to our 14th fret location. Why do we care about the 14th fret specifically? It's because that is our neck to body joint. In this case, because this is a 14 frets to the body guitar. If we were building 12 frets to the body guitar, we would want to know where our 12th fret is. So we get our neck to body joint location, and then I'm just going to add 7/8 of an inch so that we have a nice meaty portion of the neck blank left over for the tenon to be formed. So I can then use that, the 14th fret line, pull that onto the side, measure out a certain distance for my heel cap, and then draw my heel curve. That's sort of what I'm getting at here. I'm going to use these marks for other things in the future, but right now I need them simply so I can draw out the heel curve. Simple way to do all this, though, I find if you're going to be doing something repeatable, it always makes sense to make yourself a nifty little measuring implement. Or in this case, you could even say that this is a three-dimensional story stick, because I can get all my marks that I need right off of this by just holding this here, lining it up with the back edge of the tenon there, and then I'm just going to mark. Here's the 14th fret, here's the leading edge of the nut, that's the beginning of our scale length, and then over on the side here I can just trace out that whole curve. Very easy, very quick, very convenient. Alright, so next I'm going to go ahead and just cut off with two big bandsaw cuts coming in like that and like that. I'm going to lop off this big chunk of material, and then whatever's left I'm just going to smooth away or sand away on the spindle sander. We already saw the spindle sander today, so I won't bother bringing you along with the camera for this one. It's not that interesting or educational anyway, and we'll just pick up with where I'm at once I finish all that. Alright guys and gals, not only did I shape the heel as I said I would, I also installed the heel cap. So I did quite a bit off camera there. Nothing too shocking or exciting, and not too many interesting tips I could have added there. Pretty cut and dry processes is what I'm saying. And so now at this stage, because I can't work on the body because I'm waiting on binding strips, as I mentioned before, and the neck is doing what it's doing, so I can't work on that right now either. I'd like to turn my attention to the bridge, and first I have to mark my bridge shape onto this blank and then cut it out. But this brings me back to my broken bandsaw, which I really want to use to do that bridge work. And you know what? I really don't want to have to shape the bridge without this bandsaw. So I'm just going to suck it up, and I'm going to, through the rest of the day, just dig into this hot mess. Anyway, such is life. Just wanted to share that with you guys. I'll be picking up on day, what would this be, 111 will be the next day, I suppose. We'll be picking up there with some more work on the neck and hopefully the bridge if I get that thing fixed. So I hope you guys learned something here. Bye for now.
If you learned something here, please give this video a like and subscribe so you can be notified when I release a new DIY guitar making video. And if you want to really learn more, take one of my structured online courses at ericschaferguitars.com or register for a hands-on guitar building workshop here with me in Burnville, Pennsylvania.